guys, we're going to be looking at the Octopus RDA, which is a rebuildable dripping atomizer. There's a unit here, see if we can get focus. There we go. Okay, so this is a fairly new on the market little dripping atomizer. I went for the black option. You got choice of silver, gold or black. The reason it's called Octopus is because it's got 8 strands of silica to form the wick. Okay. Just looking at a couple of key features here. It has an air hole underneath the wick itself, which exits the other side out of the side. The cap also has an air hole in it, just there. The coil is held down by thumb screws, so you can undo them and do them up without a screwdriver. Makes it a little bit easier, maybe one less tool when you're wicking it up. Okay, so a couple of problems I found here. The wick is so long that getting it back in is actually a bit of a nightmare. Might be lucky this time. You see, it starts to stick out the top, so you end up sort of having to poke it back in either with a drip tip or something else. The problem there is that it means the only way you can ever drip this realistically is by dripping through the top rather than being able to remove the cap. You can imagine when you've got loads of juice over there, it just gets very messy. Now the other issue I found, let me just stick this on top of a Vamo, is that the coil itself seems to be poorish quality. So if we just fire that up, I don't know if you'll see, only 2 or 3 of the rings on the coil are actually firing. I'll take it up a little bit more so you can see what's going on. Let's take it up to 10 watts and see if you can catch that. So the coil itself is fairly inefficient, so what I'm going to do is just re-wick it. I'm not going to be using the silica that came with it. I'm going to try using some of the 2mm silica I normally use, just because I've got some spare. And what I'll be doing is keeping the 8 strands that come with it, just in case I find it's a better vape. Let's just take it off. Okay, so as I said, this comes with thumb screws, so in theory you should be able to just loosen these off and remove the coil. I see that they've wrapped the wires around the thumb screws, so let's just get rid of those first. Let's pull them out. Use something sharp. Straighten those out. And there we have a coil and wick. So I'm not sure why it's only firing on part of the wick. Seems to be all okay. There may just be something else going on I'm not aware of. Okay, so what I've got today is 2mm silica wick. Got about 9 centimeters of that. I've got some 0.2 Nichrome wire, about 9 centimeters again. So what I'm going to do is just give that a bit of a heat. So now that's nailed, we should look at getting that around the silica. Right, what I'm going to do here, as I pointed out, one of the issues I had, or one of the disappointments as such, I'm sure the Octopus idea is great, but for me I found it a little bit annoying. What I'm going to do is fold the wick over and then fold it again. So we end up effectively with a very short stumpy wick. What I'm going to do is just put a piece of metal in there to give it some rigidity, make it a bit stronger and easier to wrap the coil around, and I'm going to clamp it together. Hopefully that'll hold. I've probably got too much coil here, but we'll see how it goes. One of the things you'll notice on this is that the holes for the coil are slightly different heights. So it does in theory mean that the outer one you can sort of loop under and that the inner one goes over the top when you finish. What I'm going to do is just wrap this around 4 or 5 times. There. This is the first time I've done this, so or at least on this device. So it may or may not work. Okay, so that's gone around 5 times in total. We're sort of exiting on the 5th time. So that looks okay to me. We'll give it a try. Push these through here. What I'm going to do is just, as I get it close, I'll just take the wick out to the side a little bit. This will help it to sort of hold it in place while I tighten it up. Remove the clamp and piece of metal, adjust to where you want it to be, and screw down. Okay, what we're just going to do is trim off those extra bits of wire, but before we do that, check out the coil. This is the second one in. It's a little bit close to the other one, so what I'm going to do is just move that out a little bit. One advantage of using silica is you don't have to use something like a wooden toothpick to move coils. It's not going to cause a short or anything like that. What I'm going to do is just move the coil more into the middle here, because I don't want any part of the coil touching the post themselves, except for the bits that go into the terminals. Okay, so I think that's about right. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just going to snip those ends off. I don't want the bits of wire sticking out. Okay, so what this should hopefully give me is the ability to put the cap on without wick going everywhere. Okay, so that's pretty good. The coil, as you can see, is still over the air hole, so hopefully I should get a nice little vape from this one. What I'm going to do is just measure it on the ammo, give me a resistance reading. And that's showing 2.2. And if I fire it up, hopefully I'll get a relatively clean burn. Let's up the voltage a bit. Yep, they're all glowing. So that's good. That's exactly what I want. Okay, cool. Let's just drip a bit of juice onto that. Let's see how it goes. Which is why I'm having such a thick wick, is that you can near enough flood it. And what will happen is as you burn off the juice over this end, you'll draw the juice from this end. There's quite a bit, it's actually quite a lot of liquid on there. Still space for more. So let's stick that at 10 watts, fire that up. Yep, that looks quite good to me. Okay. You can see it's already made that part of the wick white. I'll stick the top cap back on. One thing I have noticed is you don't actually have to line up the hole, the air hole with the cap hole, but I do find it makes it a little bit quieter. So, obviously personal preference, but always worth doing, right? Plenty of vapour, plenty of flavour. That's great. Right, cheers for watching, guys. Bye.